Den of Thieves is directed by Christian Gudegast and stars Gerard Butler as Big Nick, in air quotes, who is this shady, dirty, almost crooked cop who leads the major crimes unit, and he is going after a gang of criminals who are famous for robbing many of banks across LA and are aiming to take down one of the biggest and most unbreakable banks in the city. And it's up to Big Nick and his team to take down this highly skilled bank robbing cabal, I guess you could call them. And in the end, this film, I don't even know what to say about it. Let's just get into the review. So as you can tell by my opening there, it's not very positive, but I will start off with a couple of positives. Gerard Butler, I've never really liked you, and I've always given you a bit of a hard time, but I will say, this is your best performance, and not only that, you were fantastic in this film. You were easily the shining star here. This film gave you a great role to play. It gave you a great script in regards to your character specifically, and in the end it really paid off well for you. And I know I'm addressing you directly, but it's just I feel like I need to apologize to you in some way, because this is a great film for you, and your performance absolutely was fantastic as Big Nick. I really enjoyed it. So if you don't know, Gerard Butler plays kind of this really, dirty, crooked cop. He's the typical kind of dirty, crooked cop. He goes around smoking, he drinks a lot, that kind of thing. But he really is great in this film. He actually has some depth to him too, which I appreciated. He wasn't just, he wasn't just this one-note kind of character. He actually did have, he has a family and he has some stuff going on there. And it actually is quite interesting and it actually is quite engaging. So I have to give him that as well. Overall, I think that Gerard Butler's character was actually really well written. I really think he was the best thing about this movie. And Gerard Butler's performance, best of his career. Also, this film has plenty of action within, and it's just pretty good overall. It's not really anything outstanding. The action it's just action, it's just gunfights, and that's pretty much it. A couple of car chases here and there. It's just typical gunfight cover, duck, fire, all that kind of stuff. It's nothing revolutionary. It's good, it's entertaining, but it's just nothing spectacular. So after I walked out of this movie, I felt incredibly drained. And why is that? Well, this film is one of the most unoriginal pieces of cinema I've ever seen. This has nothing original to it. And obviously, I understand that no film is really that original anymore. It borrows elements. Everything borrows elements from everything else. That's just the way it is. It's really hard to come up with super original ideas these days, but normally each film that comes out has something about it that is original and makes it stand out from other films, and honestly, Den of Thieves has nothing of the sort. This film is just like a million other films out there. It's just so unoriginal, and because of that, it almost becomes boring. And I wouldn't say this movie is boring necessarily. It's never... Anything that goes on screen isn't necessarily boring you as an audience member, but it's just you're thinking, yep, this is going to happen, then this, then this, then that. You know what's going to happen because you've seen this type of thing before. Den of Thieves closely represents many films we've seen before, like I said. A big one that you would have seen people point out in reviews for this movie is Heat. This film is almost a blatant rip-off of Heat. It's very clear and apparent on screen just the way the characters work. You've got Al Pacino's character, you've got the cops, and you've got the chasers, you've got the criminals. It's all the same stuff again and again and again and again. And also, it's very similar to a film called 999, which came out a couple of years ago, which also wasn't very good, or at least I didn't enjoy it anyway. But a very similar film there, and a very similar concept as well, in the sense that you had a very strong cast that was kind of selling it. But in the end, I will say this film's better than 999, but it's very, very similar to those two films in particular, and it's very similar to hundreds of other cop films that are out there in the wild. And because of its originality, it becomes so repetitive. Like I said earlier, you know what's going to happen, you know how this movie is going to go down, so in the end, it's just repetitive because you feel like you're watching the same movie like for the 5th time because you know what it is. And it's the same story beats, the same reveals, the same fights, the same character drama. It's the same stuff layered and layered on top of each other. And in the end, it's so repetitive, and you're sat there in your seat thinking, God, I could walk out now and I would know what happens in this movie. I can just walk out and I would know. I don't need to see the ending. I don't need to know what's going to happen next. you know, even though Nick's character is pretty compelling, I know everything's just going to turn out the way it's going to turn out. And in the end, that makes this film really drag itself down, and it really is draining. Going back to Gerard Butler, like I said, he is great in this film, and he really carries the movie on his shoulders. I mean, this film, whenever he is not on screen, it suffers big time, and that's a shame because all the people who play the criminals, you've got some pretty likable big names in here. Like, you've got O'Shea Jackson Jr., who is of course Ice Cube's son. 50 Cent is in this, and it's just, you've got some big names there, but in the end they're not really that compelling or that interesting to watch on screen, and that's a shame. And I feel that's kind of insulting when you've got O'Shea Jackson Jr. and 50 Cent who are getting outplayed by Gerard Butler, which is something I never thought I would conceive in my brain, but it's happened here in 2018, so fair enough, that completely surprised me. But moving on from that, like I said, Butler, he completely carries the movie. Without him, this film would have completely failed if he was not in the movie as much as he was, and I'm glad he was the lead of this movie, not only because he could prove me wrong, but also because he really was kind of the perfect casting for this role to lead this film. And then going on to the ending, no spoilers of course, but this movie has this twist at the end where it shows this particular thing that affects the entire movie, and it says, oh, this is how it really happened. But in the end, you look back on the movie and it completely contradicts itself, because the way that they want you to believe it went down doesn't actually make sense in the grander scheme of the plot, because you look back at the movie and you go, well, no, that didn't happen because of this, and that couldn't have possibly happened because of this other thing. And it's just really lazy. It's almost just shoehorning in a big twist ending when it wasn't necessary for a movie like this. You don't need to do twist endings just for the sake of it. It's like when loads of spy and espionage movies do it, and it's so annoying. And they try and shoehorn it in. And like I said, it wouldn't even be so bad if it was shoehorned in and it made sense. But the fact that it's shoehorned in and it doesn't make sense is just infuriating. In the end, Den of Thieves is the definition of perfectly fine. I know I came across extremely negative in this review, but I don't necessarily hate this movie, but I just don't like it either. It's perfectly fine. It's exactly in the middle. It's not bad. It's not good. It's literally straight down the middle. And if you want to watch this movie, I'll say go for it, because I watched it with somebody else and he rather enjoyed it, but I didn't at all. It's a perfectly fine action movie with some good performances in there. But in the end, like I said, if you are in any way engaged in the films, in the film industry, you have seen this movie countless times before. I would have guaranteed you that you would have seen a film very similar to this at least once, maybe even twice. It's another run-of-the-mill cops and robbers bank robbery film. And you've seen it so many times that it just causes this movie to be extremely repetitive and in the end, kind of boring. So did you guys see Den of Thieves? If you did, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it, what you liked, what you didn't. Let's get a conversation going about this movie in the comments below. And as always, guys, please be respectful. And subscribe to The British Critic for more movie reviews and movie-related videos.